Cool. Well, let's just jump right into it. Well, Stevens, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. Super excited for this. I'm grateful we finally made it happen. I feel like it's been a long time coming.
Yeah. I had to bail the last time. I forget what it was, but I was like, oh no.
Dude, but there's so many people that like I want to have on the podcast, and it's just like weeks, months of just like hit or miss, like trying to make stuff happen. But I'm like super excited to like finally have you here today and like have this conversation.
Me too. Thank you.
Just to kind of like give some context for those listening, Will and I like kind of grew up together back out east in Virginia.
Yeah. We go way back.
Yeah, we go way back. You were a little bit older, so you kind of knew my older brother a little bit better growing up. And we were just talking before the podcast. It's literally been like 6 years since we last saw each other.
Yeah. 2018 was probably the last time.
Which is wild. Like you left on your mission, and then like I think within like a week or two of you getting back, like beforehand I'd left to mine.
Because when did you leave?
I left mid-August 2022.
Oh, okay.
So 2020, sorry. 2020 was when I left.
Yeah, so I got back like second week of September of 2020.
Yeah.
So like weeks
just
apart.
miss each other. And then you've been up at school in Idaho, and I've been down here in Provo, and just our paths have not crossed until now. But I also wanted to say like some of my earliest memories around kind of like videography and like video creation was like you. Like you always had your drone and camera and like made cool fun edits, and like for that reason it was like a huge inspiration for me to like get into like video and like content creation and stuff like that.
I'm glad I had an effect. I was actually just talking to my brother before I came over, and it's blown me away how many people from like the Oakton Steak and from Northern Virginia are now in a creative field.
Yeah.
I feel like in high school, everyone teased me for having my GoPro and just filming everything and making these videos. But it's like now not saying I was a trendsetter or anything.
Yeah,
but
no.
Like, it's cool seeing how so many people, like, I feel like everyone from our ward, like,
no, it's true.
is now like,
because like sort of Avery Vogelsang is like a brand specialist doing advertising. I'm also doing advertising. You obviously with content creation. The other Avery Olson doing film.
Yeah,
like
it's like everything's come full circle to where we're all like in the same industry.
No, it is super cool. I've never thought about that,
especially since Northern Virginia is not so focused on content like out west is in general, and Utah especially. I know so many startup companies out here that are like, first things first, we need a 5-minute killer intro video to what our new product is or whatever. It's like content's so many people's first focus. No,
100%. That is really cool. But yeah, like I said, super excited to have you today and kind of pick your brain on stuff and just have a, uplifting conversation together.
I'm excited.
I wanted to kind of start just kind of helping the audience and myself get to know you better. I feel like creativity has played a large role in your life since the beginning. Would you say that's fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like there were kind of like moments growing up that kind of gave a sneak peek into kind of where life would take you and what you're doing now today?
Kind of. I remember growing up watching my dad go to work and come home, and it looked like it kind of sucked. He's a financial advisor, so like corporate office, day in day out type of thing. No offense, Dad, your job's awesome. Keep killing it, dude. But that never had an appeal to me. I never wanted to wear a shirt and tie, or a collared shirt for that matter, for work. And so I always knew I wanted to have fun. My ADD also knew I wanted to get out of the classroom as soon as possible and apply nothing from school and just have fun. And so I feel like a lot of just like messing around with my GoPro, a lot of it too was watching my older brothers out. One was in Idaho, one was in Utah, both going to school, and they both had GoPros, and they were making edits for their different trips. And I was like, oh, that looks fun. So that's what kind of got me, I'd say, first into it. But I think just what you can tell within video, like you can portray so much. Like I watch my early edits, and one, I think they're garbage, but two, I look and it's like, even those few years where I really wasn't doing it seriously, it's more just for fun, there was progression there still. Like there's still a lot of creativity I put into it. I actually remember one edit that never got finished because my software kept crashing.
Oh,
So I
dang.
was using such a crappy like GoPro house software that had so many bugs in it that I like gave up on the edit. But it was like going to be my best edit of all of high school. But
Dang, that's a
it got
bummer.
cooked. It's like an art field trip, so like wasn't that exciting. But I just like spent so much time on it. But I feel like a lot of those early trips, like scout camp and high adventure, like we're kind of like, oh, these are activities we enjoy that are fun. Filming it's even more fun.
Yeah, no, 100%. Do you feel like kind of growing up you explored other mediums to convey your creativity, or like was it mainly videography?
It's honestly more so art than
Really?
anything. I took computer graphics my freshman year and it was fun, but Photoshop and Illustrator were just like a pain in the butt. And, like,
Yeah.
is too hard. Like not too hard, but it's just like I don't know, not quite what I wanted to make.
Mhm.
And so then I took art classes, and I think me and Avery Olson were in the same art classes from
Let's go.
sophomore year to senior year. Shout out Miss Conley, best art teacher in the world. But yeah, it's more so art. My senior year, I saw that there was a TV production class that was an academy class. It was over at Fairfax High School.
Gotcha.
And I wanted to take it because I was kind of falling more in love with video. But I also looked into TV production and was like, that actually doesn't really have an appeal to me.
Yeah.
But it also just didn't work for my schedule. So I took AP Art, and it's funny. I got a 1 on all my AP exams in high school. So like
There you
I
go.
say I failed it. I passed the class. I just failed the AP exam.
Uh-huh.
But I took AP Art instead and did a lot more art for sure. But it's all like still around. I always have kept everything kind of true to myself, I'd say. Like all my AP Art portfolio is all around skateboarding.
Gotcha.
Recreating things out of skateboards. My like big project was I took 4 old skateboards and cut them up and built a stool out of them.
Dope.
And I think it's probably still sitting in my parents' garage.
Yeah.
They crashed it. But yeah, it's definitely more art than video in high school for sure.
That's awesome. What is it about like video itself that is so like appealing to you, would you say?
I think a big part, honestly, I hate journaling. I hate writing. I'm terrible at it. And so like when people ask like, oh, do you have a journal? Like my brother's super good at journaling, and he'll send us like, it'll pop up on his phone and be like a year ago, and it'll be like a journal entry. And so like super grateful for that he does it, because I think it's super cool to see, but I just hate writing. So in my mind, I'm like, I've always made videos of kind of bigger events in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of my form of journaling. Like my engagement, for instance, I filmed it all. So I have a video that I can watch and feel the emotions of when I proposed to my wife. So it's like things like that. I feel like you just get different emotional attachment, and you can like rekindle emotions through video versus just reading it. Yeah,
no, 100%. I feel like that's also a huge thing that like I love about like this stuff, just looking through your Behance and like Instagram stuff, is like, and I've said this on previous podcasts, but like I just like have the strongest belief that like people can feel if the person making the content enjoyed it. Like you can feel passion through art, like through work.
Totally.
And you can feel, and we were talking about this before the podcast, like there's a lot of people out there, you know, making content simply for the financial value in it and just like marketing and stuff like that. And like, you can't blame them if that's their goal, but like, I feel like we kind of have like share that same view of like content creation, videography, all this stuff that we're trying to do. It's an art form, and like, it's something that obviously you want to promote in the right way and like use kind of some of the techniques and stuff that people use on social media, but also find that balance of like, no, this is like a genuine expression of like me as an individual. And like, I want to produce content that's like going to uplift others and inspire others and like have my passion kind of bleed through it.
Totally.
So.
There's got to, I feel like that's the biggest thing. Like there's so many creators out there, but there's so many that have zero, like they add value, but exactly, you can tell it's a money grab. They're kind of like, oh, I can make money on this. This is pretty easy. There's one dude, I think his name's Caleb Shaw. His Instagram's like, where is Caleb?
And I feel like I know who you're talking about.
He's kind of got this like, he's got a cool look. He's got these like big wireframe glasses, kind of like a curly mullet. He did like 30 days of becoming a filmmaker because he's like, hey, I've always wanted to be a filmmaker. Let me just go do it. I'm going to share my journey with you guys. But his stuff is just so, one, it's super engaging and super well done. But it's also like, he just loves creating and wants to uplift and support others. Like I've DM'd him a few times, like, hey, huge inspiration, like keep it up. And he'll reply, he's like, hey, thanks, man, you too. Like he's just, you can tell at the core of it, he has so much passion behind it, where it's like, yeah, he's probably making some coin from it. Probably not a ton, but he's also doing it just because he loves making it, putting it out there, and helping others. He'll even post like creative meetups. Like I think he did one in New York.
That's so cool.
Not too long ago, and he'll post like, hey, where should I do the next one?
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, that'd be so cool. Like hopefully he comes to Salt Lake. Like I'd love to go, like not only to meet him, but see what other creatives it, you know, like brings together.
Yeah.
Because it's like, oh, who knows? Maybe 3 doors down.
Yeah.
Could be a creative genius that I never knew about or something like that.
Dude, that's actually one of my dreams, is like where I my hope is like I can get the podcast to the point where like we get a good community and following, and like we can help kind of these smaller creators get their name out there. And then I hope to get to a point where we can have live events where like we can have, like, say for example, we had a couple of musicians on the podcast. We can have them like open. Maybe we have like a 20-30 minute podcast conversation. And then we have vendors of all these creators that can sell stuff, and like just kind of create an event where like we can really bring the community together physically, and just kind of like enjoy each other's like successes and learn from each other's disciplines and stuff like that.
It's like Business Bros, like networking events, but like for creators would actually be sick.
100%.
Just talking about LinkedIn and stock market.
So yeah, anyway, manifesting that. Hopefully in like 10 years we clip this and then we make it happen. Like, just like a look back. But I did want to kind of talk about, so you did all this, you know, these projects for fun, had your GoPro, enjoyed kind of exploring different ways, different mediums to express yourself. At what point did it switch to like, okay, I'm going to make a more concentrated effort to try and make things happen in kind of the video space?
I failed my first semester of college. I was my very first semester, fall of 2017. I was up at BYU, Idaho, and I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to. Entrepreneurship always had a kind of a lingering thought in my mind of being my own boss, being my own business, because I like playing. So being my own boss, I can do whatever. So I took like an entrepreneurship class, like an intro, or maybe it's just intro to business. But my other 2 classes were architecture classes, because my mom was like, hey, you like drawing, you like design, like maybe you would like home building or just architecture in general. So I was like, skate park building, that's sick, like design skate parks. Failed both my architecture classes, which later actually helped me graduate, because I failed them as degrees at BYU, Idaho. I don't know if it's the same in Provo, but if it's a general class or an elective, you can pass with a D.
Okay.
But if it's a major, like a class 4-year major, you have to get at least a C.
Yeah, it's the same.
Okay. So I got a D in both those classes. Failed them for the major, and I was like, dang, that sucks. Whatever. Hated those classes.
Yeah.
And then they ended up counting as electives later.
Let's
on. So I was able to graduate a little bit quicker than I.
That's huge.
But I failed those 2 classes, and in my business class, I really liked that class, and I most of all liked it because my teacher was a homie. He's cool. He's relatable, younger guy, and our end of semester project, I forget what it was, but it was basically an interview with him, one-on-one interview, and he recommended I looked into the communications degree, because he's like, it looks like you're a lot like me, like the hands-on projects. He's like, I got my degree in communications, you should check it out. And my mom had been saying the same thing. My whole thought was like, I'm not a public speaker.
Yeah.
Like, I can't, no, I'm not going to do communications. But then he said it. So I was like, all right, let me look into this. So the next semester came around to register for classes. And I was scrolling through communications, and I saw video production. And I was like, dude, I've been doing this for 4 years already. Like, I've been filming and editing stuff for a minute. Like, I can go to school for it. So I switched my degree, did 1 semester, did like my intro to communications class and my first video class, and was like, all right, this is pretty sick. Then I left on my mission. But it was nice because at that point I knew, like, yeah, I'm doing video. That's going to be my career. So like, I always had the thought, I'll just figure it out after my mission. Yeah. So it's nice to figure it out before.
100%.
It was kind of failing those classes and realizing, like, I don't know what I want to do. Yeah. But I want to do something I love.
Dude, I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like a lot of creators are like, have had similar experiences. Like, I know for me at least, like, school has always been a drag. Like I've performed decent enough like through high school and even in college, but like it's always been a burden for me. And I feel like a lot of creators have just this like passion and excitement, and it's just like not found in school. And like I think that's a totally acceptable thing to do. I personally feel like an outlier at BYU Provo because like the kids I'm surrounded by,
they're like academic geniuses.
They're insane. And the thing is, they eat school up. Like they live for going to class and learning linear algebra and like all this stuff. And like
that they'll probably never use.
It's like I'm glad that I'm around people that love what they do, but at the same time, I in no way, shape, or form can like relate. Totally. And I feel like I had a similar experience. Like I went to school, I thought I was gonna be a business major. I like took business classes, didn't enjoy them. And luckily, just like the right counselor pointed me in the right direction to advertising and school communications. And I feel like it was just like the perfect fit for me. And everything's kind of just like worked its way together since then. But I think it is a very real thing. And for those that are like maybe younger in a similar position, like looking for your major and can kind of relate to the things that like Will and I are saying, like maybe look into the more like creative, look into school communications, like kind of find the major that fits you. Cause I feel like at least for people like us, like if you try and make another major work, it's just not. Yeah. It's not going to function.
Or even like first semester, like take a wide variety of classes. Like it's your first semester. It really doesn't matter. Take a huge variety and ultimately take a lot of classes. You can either find what you want to do or find a teacher that wants what's best for you that you can connect with. Yeah. Because like you found a counselor that helped you out, pointed you in the right direction. I had a teacher that I liked his class because I liked him. Yeah. Pointed me in the right direction. And then my video teacher, like if there is any option for multiple professors, I was going with my video teacher, Brother Malam, because I was like, I like the way he teaches. He also understood skateboarding. Yeah. A little bit enough. He understood the artistic aspect of filming skateboarding. So he like related to me in a bit that way. But it's like, take as many classes as you can amongst as many majors as you can to try to find it as fast as possible.
Yeah, for sure. So luckily you found kind of, what was it called? It's video.
So the degree was communications with an emphasis in video production.
Okay. So you find that major pre-mission, you serve your mission, you come back, what was your time like in that major? What were you kind of doing throughout the major? How are you continuing to kind of nurture that aspect of your life?
So the last 6 months of my mission was COVID.
Okay.
And so everything shifted to like to make videos, social media, all that stuff. Right, and I was like, all right, sick. Like I like making videos. I've done this a couple times. So I started making skate videos on my mission, like relating skateboarding to principles of the gospel, mainly perseverance and like faith and just trying new things type of thing. Yeah. But I mean, gave me an excuse to skate, but also to film and further like kind of build my portfolio per se of like, I've filmed. No, I guess you could call it educational content. Yeah. I don't know. And so that got me hyped. And I actually got Instagram approved in my mission.
Oh, nice. Let's go.
Because I was like, okay, if we're supposed to reach out to friends at home, no one's updated their Facebook since freaking 9th grade.
No, it's true. If they even have one, yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, Instagram's going to be the way to connect with them and also with youth in our area. And so I pushed super hard for that. Got that approved, and because then I was like, no one, and then the same thought, people are going to be kind of weirded out if I just start posting like photos of Jesus and super testimony heavy things. Yeah. Where I'm like, everyone's been seeing me post skateboarding and these videos for years through high school. Let me just do the same thing and maybe it'll strike a chord. Yeah. And so I started doing that and then came home, and I've always had a love for action sports. And coming out west, they've grown a lot. Yeah. A lot bigger mountains to ski on, a lot of bigger mountains again to mountain bike on, like just everything's tenfold out here. And so most of my projects I wrapped around that. I had a moped up at school that I did a project on. Nice. I was like, this is kind of fun, different. And so I just kind of pushed everything towards my passions And which was tough at times because, you know, the earlier classes, it's a lot more group work.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to just come in and be like, we're doing mine. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot more laid back in school. I was like, whatever, it's going to be quick and easy and get us an A. That's what I'm talking about. And so did a couple different like short films and things that I wasn't necessarily super stoked on, but it reminded me and showed me quickly, hey, if you don't love it, go find something you do love.
Yeah.
So my last two classes, my last three classes is a short film class where we worked on a 7 to 8 minute long short film as a group.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I was just the cinematographer. I just ran camera.
Gotcha.
Because I was like, one of the kids was graduating, so he's like, dude, we got to finish. Like, we got to do this. And he's also the director. So I was like, whatever. Yeah. I'm good. I just want to pass this class. Then the next one was documentary filmmaking. And that one was, we were on our own, but we could, you know, get our classmates to be our crew if we wanted.
Yeah.
But no one else had the same passion for me as I did. So I was like, I'm just going to do it all by myself. So that was my first, that video ended up being 5.5 minutes.
That was Drop, right?
Or
was that a different one?
This one was Pass Laps.
Okay.
So it was about mountain biking on the Teton Pass, which when you go to Idaho over to Jackson Hole, you go over this pretty high up mountain and there's a ton of downhill mountain bike trails there.
Gotcha.
So it's a documentary on my friends who rode it every weekend. So got me an excuse to go biking more and then also capture some aspects of the trails that don't get captured a whole ton that you only really see GoPro footage of.
Yeah.
So that one was super fun and I'd never really done documentary style stuff before. So it was a cool learning experience. And then my senior project was Drop. And that was actually like a last minute curveball because my buddy who I filmed with, he lives just outside of Boise and I was going to go like snowmobiling with him.
Okay.
And the whole video is going to be on snowmobiling. And like 2 weeks before, we had already set the date and everything. 2 weeks before, he's like, dude, we don't have any good snow. And without good snow, I can't send it. And if I can't send it, the clip, like videos just too long because school is like, okay, what should we do? And he's like, we could go to St. George. I was like, all right, perfect. And so we hauled down to St. George for 4 days. And we filmed, the last day we filmed that morning and then got on the road and drove back up north.
That's crazy.
So that's my senior project. And that's, I'd say where I really was like, okay, biking is what I love the most. Cause I'd tried filming some snowboarding stuff and skateboarding is always fun, but there's just no money in there. Yeah. But mountain biking was the easiest because I could just pack everything in my backpack and go ride the trail too. Mm-hmm. Snowboarding stuff just with the weather, like the cold
it's hit or miss. Yeah.
Set up a camera when it's below 25 degrees.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's rough. And so I feel like I kind of found my dream job pretty much. Yeah. Is mountain bike filming.
What is it that makes mountain bike more lucrative than like skateboarding? Like, why do you say that?
I find myself wanting to skate more.
Yeah.
I also get sketched out skating with my camera because like a lot of skate filming, you're following them. And if you're in the streets, it's not like perfectly smooth skate park concrete. Yeah. So it gets sketchy and it's a rougher style. Like you can be a lot more artistic with mountain bike films. Yeah. Where you can put in a ton of effects, ton of graphics, like do a lot more. Whereas kind of the core skateboarding stuff is more like fisheye, 1080p, like kind of like just grittier, rougher. Yeah. Which it's still fun and I enjoy it. I also enjoyed trying to make like skateboarding like cinematic, like just really crisp, like slow-mo shots with slow pans and stuff like that. I think this is such a cool perspective of it.
No, I think so too.
It'll always be just kind of passion on the side. Plus there's a lot more mountain bike brands that like have big media team. So like career wise, I think there's more potential on that avenue.
No, 100%. So you kind of like went through that process. You worked on projects in school, had your kind of culminating project being, Drop and working on that. Were you working on stuff like outside of classes at the same time, or was that kind of your main focus throughout college?
I had one freelance, call it freelance, is my brother's friend. Okay. She had started a sweatshirt company called Mom Come Pick Me Up.
Cool.
And it's always a joke because they live down in Southern California. It's always kind of like an ongoing joke, as I understand, with her and her friends, because they would all go surf, and as a joke, they tell her, "Hey, Mom, come pick me up." Like when I'm done surfing, Mom, pick me up. Yeah. So she's like, this is catchy. This is cool. And she kind of made it like this, at least the goal was like a surfy, skatey feel. Because that's kind of where the whole brand originated from. But it turned into kind of like this girly, like oh, I'm stressed about life, mom can pick me up type of thing. And so she hit up my brother who was living down in Southern California, like, hey, could you help me make a video? And he's like, oh, my brother's actually studying video. He would be the right guy. So she flew me down to California.
No way.
To spend a weekend with my brother, and we filmed just like a little skate video. So that's like my first exposure of like, oh, a client would pay for me to fly.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, well, that's pretty cool. And like, it wasn't like, I mean, she paid us a little bit on top of it. Like, wasn't anything crazy, but that's just still like a free flight to California for the weekend. This is insane. And so that was like the first like kind of client, and it was fun. I like making that. Like, that one exposed me more to the advertising side of things. Where I was like, okay, advertising is pretty cool. Like having a product and making a video around that product type of thing. And then I worked at a ski resort up in Idaho, and their social media was garbage. And the point that got me to finally hit them up to do work for them was it posted a photo and the dude's finger was like halfway covering the lens. Like you could see it in the corner of the photo they posted, and is on like either a super old iPhone or like a janky Samsung. Yeah. And I was like, dog, like, this is a ski resort.
This is not gonna fly.
Like you guys just like put in a brand new lift. Like you just dropped it, like put $1 million into this resort, and you're posting, you got your finger halfway covering the lens. And so I did work for them for 2 months, 3 months, and then they weren't paying. So I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And so, but that was cool because again, I like skiing. It made, I could go up to work because I worked as a lift operator. I could go up to work, bring my camera, and make twice as much money.
Yeah.
That's kind of my mindset. Plus it got me more time on the hill.
Yeah.
So those are really the only two I did while I was in school that were like paying clients, and then just did some like kind of passion projects on the side. But yeah, I was more so, for once in my life, I was focused on school.
Let's go. Yeah. I feel like that's a huge thing though, is like, there's such a power in like just networking your way into stuff. Mm-hmm. Like if you just like reach out to enough people, like I feel like doors open. And at the same time, like when you just like establish yourself as like, I am a freelance videographer, like eventually like people will catch wind and like be reaching out to you and stuff like that.
It's almost like you just got to get started.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Get started with no clients, and then you'll get clients, and then hopefully it works out.
Yeah. And that's like the other thing. And like I've said this before, but like the most impactful way to like get clients is to show them like the work that you can produce. Mm-hmm. Like now in the future, like if you want to or are looking to work with like another ski resort, like you can show them like, oh, like I did this with this brand. This is like exactly what you can expect for your own ski resort.
Especially because like taking ski resorts, for instance, most of them are like big dogs, all like tied together through like one of 4 owners.
Yeah.
But it's like the small ones is really where like it could take off, because it's like I worked at a small resort. They didn't really have an on-site photographer. So it's like you can find similar clients to what you shoot, and then you can scale from there to like once you've worked with, say we are going the ski route, like once you've worked with 4 different small resorts, then you can go to the big dogs. Hey, I can come to each of your resorts, like in your ownership. I'll spend a week at each and get you whatever content. Like,
yeah,
it's all like the networking of it and the growth is like there's a lot of potential.
100%. So you graduate. What were the next steps? Like, were you looking for a job kind of in the space? Were you kind of more focused on your freelance work? Was it a mix of both?
Yeah. So I graduated and my wife still had 2 more semesters.
Okay.
So I just worked at a bike shop. And so after we got married, I started working at a bike shop. But part of my agreement with that shop was that I would do our social media and like content. Because again, their posts were like once a month. Like it was just infrequent. Like, and I mean, granted, they're there to sell bikes and to like service bikes, not to like
it's not
post.
Their specialty.
So it's like they'd post about events coming up like here and there. And so I was like, hey, we could really like do stuff. And I don't know a ton about bikes, but I love bikes and I want to learn more. Partially too, I was like, I can't afford to upgrade my bike at full cost. So I need to get some dealer cost out of here. So I did our social media there, which was kind of another step in the right direction, where I was like, okay, cool. Like even if I am just taking photos of bikes in the shop. Like it's fun. I can get different angles. I can highlight different things on different bikes. I can, with it being at our shop, I could go in the parking lot, film stuff, or take photos of stuff. Like there's a lot of potential there and possibility. Yeah. Plus everyone at the shop rode like a lot. So like it wasn't hard to go out and ride some trails.
And just shoot with them.
Get like on location type stuff. So I did that. And we actually I had one of my videos do, what was it? Dude, I got like over 2,000 likes and like 20K views.
That's huge.
Like, and it wasn't even like using a trending audio or anything. It's literally an ASMR type video that the lighting was garbage. Everything was super dark, but like it blew up.
Let's go.
It was wild. I was like, no shot. Like, I mean, I like how this one turned out, but it wasn't amazing by any means, but it blew up and that got me hyped. And then we sold these frame wraps, like a protective sticker to go over bike frames.
Gotcha.
And so the company, we tagged the company and they reposted it. So I reached out and did some trade work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was still like kind of trying to find some clients on the side, but it's also like I'm content with what I was doing for work and was creating a lot.
Yeah.
I tried to post 3 times a week. So I was like pretty consistently making stuff for work. And so I did a trade for video work for some free frame protection stuff from that company while I was there. And then as we were getting closer to my wife graduating was when I kind of started my job hunt. And it was tough.
Yeah.
Like trying to find like a big boy job, like out of college, like with a degree was not as easy as you'd think. Like I was probably looking for jobs for 9 months before I finally got my job.
Wow.
And then, so that was like, I graduated April of 23. My wife graduated December of 23. So we were in Idaho all the way till then. December came and we moved in with my grandma in Bountiful. And we were both still jobless. We just knew like, hey, we can live with my grandma. My wife's doing architecture and interior design and I'm doing video. There's a lot more of that in Utah than there is in Idaho.
Yeah.
So we moved down, both jobless, kind of just like sent it on a whim.
That's
like,
hard,
let's
bro.
hope. And so we didn't start working till my first day was like February 26th. Her first day was March 1st of work. Like we were 2 months jobless. So we were just skiing a ton and trying to do some job hunt stuff.
Yeah.
And so I actually, dude, after 9 months of sending in applications and stuff like that, I walked into a video production studio that I passed every day in Bountiful. I didn't realize it was a production studio. Cruise in there with my resume and talked to them for like 20, 30 minutes. And then like 3 weeks later, started working. I like went in and shadowed on a couple shoots.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. But that was also very short-lived. I only worked there for like 3 months.
Yeah.
But it's like a step into the industry.
Yeah.
Help me figure out what I don't want to do.
I feel like it's different. Like obviously for each industry, the hiring process is different. But like I feel like at least from people that I've talked to that like have graduated, have found jobs, not within like the creative industry, is like it's not too hard.
Yeah.
Like you have a resume, you show your projects, and like there's a need for people in like say computer science or engineering or whatever it is.
Everything has a need, and like a degree checks the big box.
Yeah.
But it's not the same.
It's so different because like especially with like I feel like how employers are viewing the industry now, especially with like younger people getting into higher positions, is like college is good, but it's not the most important thing in a resume. It's like experience and portfolio is like what they're truly looking for, which makes things a little bit trickier for us kind of taking the college route straight out of college to find like a good job, because a lot of times you have to start smaller and just kind of work your way up through kind of that experience and networking.
And I feel like the experience part is tough unless you're like gung-ho all through college and you know it's what you want to do and you're like doing freelance on the side and building up like your own brand per se. But like for me, I didn't do anything. I didn't even really consider like going full-time freelance or trying to. I was just like, no, I'll work for either a bike company doing their media stuff, or I'll work at a studio or something. Like I never really like built up a ton of experience outside of my school projects. So like my level of experience was so low of like, yeah, I did these school projects, but I haven't done client projects. I haven't done super niche, like, hey, we're advertising for this, make a video that sells it type of thing. And so that's what I found the toughest. Handful of interviews I had and stuff came back of like, yeah, just not quite, like, we love you, great candidate, just not enough experience. Which I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Like, I remember talking to my boss at the bike shop that I was working at, and he kind of made a joke like, they want you to have 10 years worth of experience to pay you like you have 1 year of experience. Like, I was like,
it's true.
Dang, that's a sad reality, but I think you're right. And so it was a grind for sure.
And it's like, it's hard too, because you're going to college. It's a full-time gig. First of all, a lot of people are working on top of that. And then to also be like building your portfolio on top of all of that and being social and like the other 100 things you have to worry about, like, it's a huge challenge. And like, you have to make a lot of sacrifices to be able to like get to that point. So like, to have that expectation, I think, is sometimes unfair for like employers to have on kids.
Totally. And I think a lot of it comes down to like, depending on if you're going into like a company that's like a production studio, for instance, like they're going to understand, they're going to know. But when you're going into a company that's like, oh, we're just hiring a content creator, like they don't really have as much of a know, especially through the hiring process. Like sometimes the hiring manager is literally just like looking at what's on paper and like, oh, doesn't have 3 years of experience in this. Yeah, I don't know if we can take them, but it's like, I don't know. I think a lot of times they look at it so black and white, and it's not always that way.
No, it's true. Tell me a little bit about like your experience working at the media agency that you work for, and kind of like pros, cons, lesson learned, biggest takeaways from your time working there.
Yeah. So learned a lot. We shot a majority of our clients were podcasts.
Okay.
So our studio had 8 different backdrops, which was pretty cool. You could film tons of different stuff and make it look like you're in completely different places.
Yeah.
But after filming podcasts for like big, like these bigger companies that are either using them for internal use, like, I don't know, it was kind of like, okay, this is cool, but it's monotonous.
Yeah.
Especially to film a podcast for an hour, then go edit it for 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure you get it, but it's also different because it's like your own
I love
stuff.
it. Yeah.
So
it's totally different.
on it.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm like, it's real estate bros and like guys talking about, I don't even know.
Stuff you don't care about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, there's no passion behind it. So I'm just like, cut, like do this as fast as I can.
Yeah.
But then we had some clients that were cooler and more fun and let us be a lot more creative. But like the biggest thing I took away was, one, I don't think I'd ever start a studio.
Yeah.
The expenses on a studio space is insane.
Really?
Like if anything, I don't know, I just run it out of my house and that's a tax write-off. Like it's, yeah, I don't know. I look at it financially a lot too, now that I need to figure out how I'm going to have an income.
Mm-hmm.
What is like, all right, what's most cost efficient? But I don't know. I learned a lot, but there were like definitely like red flags there. And so I only worked there like 3-4 months. And then now I'm like kind of more so pursuing doing freelance full time.
Yeah.
Still like looking for a job just as something to kind of like have some income coming in. But ideally I want to build up clientele that are like multiple retainers where it's just like shooting stuff I'm stoked on each month forever.
Yeah.
But I don't know, the production side is cool. Having a team is nice. Like knowing like, oh, I don't need to like be in charge of everything. Like we could shoot 2-3 camera deep and know, hey, everyone's fine. Like I feel like a lot of school projects is like everyone on the team would check, oh, do these settings look okay? How's the exposure? It's like, yeah, just trust me. Like, and so it's nice in that aspect of just trusting everyone and then divvying up the work where it's like, oh, that's cool. Like that, like, because you wouldn't always shoot what you edit and you wouldn't always edit what you shoot. So it's cool to see, oh yeah, I shot that. I remember some of the shots I was hyped on, and then seeing how they edited it was cool. Like we did some work for the Salt Lake Bees.
Oh, cool.
So going to some of their games, I'd see stuff that I'd edited on their screen.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's it.
That's so cool.
I made that. So like stuff like that was pretty cool. Seeing some of their like some companies like posted on social media was cool. But I learned a lot, and I think a lot of it was takeaways of things I'd do differently. Yeah. Which was, I mean, at the end of the day, learning is learning. It's all beneficial, whether it's I want to do this or I don't want to do this. Yeah. And so Yeah,
That's awesome.
It's a good experience, and I like being my own boss and
Yeah.
working. I'd rather work with other creatives that want to create the same things I do, if that makes sense. Because our bosses, like, we had such an affordable business plan that it wasn't sustainable as a business, but it's awesome for the clients.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, it's only our base plan was like $500 a month for an hour of shooting.
Yeah.
But it's like, all right, to pay 5 people, to have a studio, to pay for all the equipment, like,
yeah, you need more than that.
We would have been stretched so thin. We'd get these like one-off projects that pay higher. And so that's like the biggest thing I took away, I think, was like how to charge correctly.
Yeah.
Like I felt like we undercharged and over-delivered too. And I think a big thing too is setting the right expectations for clients.
100%.
Oftentimes I felt like it would kind of like we'd give a client like royalty treatment for their first month, and then they'd expect that forever.
Yeah.
But you can't. That's not sustainable. Like, I think being super clear, saying, hey, this is going to be the game plan. This is what you'll get. This is what the cost. Like, just laying it all out up front.
Yeah.
Rather than like, I don't know, being like building. I'd rather build it as a business relationship with the client than as a friendship.
Yeah, which is super hard.
Because then it gets tough. Because it's like, oh, well, you're my friend. Should I hook you up? You're that whole fiasco. Like, I'd rather keep clients as clients and keep it very business and professional between each other, and not like keep the relationship where it should be.
Yeah.
That way we can both benefit the most.
100%. So since you've kind of like gone all in on the freelance, what have been things that you feel like been like working really well and like been going good for you, and what are things you feel like have been more challenging?
That's a good question. So when I stopped working at the studio, because we had been editing such boring stuff, I wanted to fall in love with video again. Like, I mean, obviously I still loved it, but I wanted to like create things I was genuinely passionate about. So I did 30 days of editing things I was stoked on, which helped a ton, because it's like some of those I scraped together and posted it right before midnight type of thing. Other ones I was able to like plan it out and be like, all right, I'm shooting this morning, editing it this afternoon, posting it by 6 p.m. Like, it taught me a lot of organization. And so like I have a couple clients kind of in the pipeline, but nothing crazy where I can really say like, this works, this doesn't.
Yeah.
And those clients have been from word of mouth and connections and like networking in a sense. So like, I think that's a big part too. It's like, while networking, I feel like kind of has a businessy type of connotation with it. Like, it is very applicable within the creative industry as well. So like one of my brother's friends he worked with at Stance, she does like advertising and marketing stuff for different companies. So she'll run paid ads, she'll do like SEO optimization, she'll do like A/B testing, and then she works with some pretty cool brands. Like, she's worked with Stance, she's worked with Florence Marine X, which John Florence, he's like one of the world's best surfers.
Oh, cool.
Like clothing company he started. Works with a lot of these cool like surfy skate brands.
Mm-hmm. And
so my brother put me in contact with her, because companies will want content and want paid ads, and they'll be like, okay, awesome, she'll come up with a storyboard, send it to the client, and then they're kind of like, okay, well, now we have to go film it. We don't know what we're going to do. We don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of partnered up with her to where she can now tell these clients, hey, we have someone that can film it all.
That's awesome.
And so that's kind of like a reassuring client, because she's got a list of clients. So we're working with one right now called Forces. They do like activewear apparel. And so we're like in the planning, we're in the pre-production phase, trying to figure out what exactly they need and want. And so, but it's nice having a connection like that, where they were kind of almost like missing this one piece of their business of like, we can offer it, but we can't really do anything to help other than a shot list.
Yeah.
So like now they're like, hey, we have people. And so like a connection like that is huge. And she even said to, she's like, oh, I'm like, we work with some branding agencies too. I'd love to put you in contact type of thing.
Awesome.
So it's like networking can go a long ways, especially when you're starting off doing freelance. If you know someone who's working with companies in an advertising way, but not in the content side of things, like,
yeah,
hit up those avenues.
No, I think networking is huge. And And a lot of, at least in my mind, until like semi-recently, it was like, add 100 people on LinkedIn and like print out business cards. And like, it just seemed so terrible to me. Like, it was like the last thing I wanted to do. But like this podcast, for example, it's a super organic way to just like create meaningful relationships with like cool people that are doing cool things. Like, I'm wanting to like help promote them, and like they're helping repost content and stuff. Like, it's a mutually beneficial type of relationship. And these people that I otherwise probably would never have talked to, I now can call and be like, hey, what do you think about this? Or like, what's your expertise? Or like, could I pair you with this person? And it's like a super organic way. And I think that there are ways to go about it where it's not like businessy, terrible, annoying, and it's like totally doable.
Not just like hitting the LinkedIn DMs, like cold calling.
Yeah, no, which I could never do.
Yeah,
but believe it or not, we're like right towards the end of the podcast.
Time flies.
Time always flies. Something that I love to do at the end of each podcast is give the person being interviewed the freedom to kind of choose what note we end the podcast on. That can kind of be something that you wanted to share today and didn't have the opportunity to yet, that like came to mind earlier, or something completely different. Just kind of let you choose what note we end the podcast on. Take your time.
I'd say from my limited experience, my word of advice for any people that like content or are interested in it, just start. Like, one thing my teacher always told us, because people would always in my classes be like, what camera should I buy? Like, is this a good deal? Like, ask my teacher, and he's like, well, what's the point of buying a camera? Like, do you have clients? Are you gonna, because I'm sure BYU is the same way. You can't use school equipment for paying clients. And so that was always his question, was what's the purpose for buying this camera? Is it just to use, or do you have clients? And most kids would be like, no, just kind of to have one. And he's like, no, don't buy it. Like, one, the school's got so much equipment, but two, he's like, the best camera you have is the one you have.
Yeah.
Which, looking back, was a big thing. Like, in high school, I filmed everything on a GoPro Hero 5 with a handheld stabilizer. Like, it wasn't anywhere near like a professional setup. And even now my camera's nowhere near like a professional setup. Like, I have my dream camera of what I want. Do I need it yet? No. Like, so I think my biggest word of advice is just get started. iPhones now are crazy. They shoot almost better than some cameras out there. Like,
it's true.
If you like it and you want to try it, do it. Like, if you're shy to post, create a separate account. Like, if you don't want it directly tied to you, create just an account just for your creativity outlet. And you don't even have to share that. Like, people can naturally find it. Or even like, I don't know, I don't follow as many friends on like TikTok. So I'm a lot more like, I'm a lot less scared to post on TikTok than like on Instagram, for instance, because I'm like, well, my friends won't see it.
Yeah.
Like, just start creating, start somewhere, watch and ask for advice from people you look up to. I've DM'd many people that haven't replied, but I've also DM'd many people who have replied and have given me really good advice, especially when it came time where I was like, okay, I am going to buy a camera. Like, I want to start building clients. I want to get really good on my whole reason for buying my camera was like, I want to kind of get dialed on a camera, because I never felt like I was super comfortable on school cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And I texted everyone and DM'd everyone who was making content I liked, because I couldn't find a direct YouTube video of like action sports video. This is the best camera. It's always like team sports and stuff. So I texted people that were creating the content I wanted to create and asked for their recommendations when it came to shooting, when it came to pricing, when it came to equipment. So like, start creating, and anyone you know, even if you don't know them, but you're just a fan of their work, DM them. The worst thing that's going to happen is you don't get a reply. And when you shoot for if you shoot for like a really high standard, or like if you shoot
for the moon and reach the stars.
Exactly. Pretty much that. Like, okay, you DM'd someone who has like 1 million followers and they didn't reply. Like, okay, you're one of 1 million people who probably could have DM'd him. You DM someone maybe a little smaller, 10,000 followers, a little bit more likely. But ultimately, I found in the creative industry, everyone wants to help everyone. Like, it's not like dog eat dog like it is in the business world. Like, the creators are a lot more They're homies.
Yeah.
So like reach out, get started, just do it.
Great advice. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Will, for your time today and your thoughts. Had a really good conversation, and wish you the best of luck in your freelance stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead and end it there.